talked about this particular topic ad nauseum, but I might as well talk about it again because it has been a problem that has been deteriorating and snowballing from there on out since 2006 and 2008, to be particular about a certain driver. All I gotta say is that the Xfinity fucking sucks! You may have, the NASCAR a while ago, granted they may have implemented a rule where no drivers are allowed to ever race in the playoff races in both trucks and Xfinity, and starting to limit the amount of races they can participate in. That's okay, but it's still causing problems. Kyle Busch's 200th win is a perfect, suitable answer about why we are still having our gripes and complaints about these cup drivers siphoning money and wins away from these young drivers trying to make a name for themselves. I say they should only run 5 races. 3 of them being the plate races, 1 other being Watkins Glen, and whatever other race they could choose for themselves. Not anywhere above 5, especially when Kyle Busch, in particular, is a champion. He didn't deserve, you bet your ass, he didn't deserve the 2015 championship, but he should act like deserve it by not racing in there just to get a cheap shot at the 200th win mark. Hell, even Kyle Busch himself has said and stated that his 200th win is not compatible with Richard Petty. See, even when Kyle Busch says it himself, these ridiculous, biased, hyperactive Kyle Busch cocksuckers continue to suck his dick to no end. And it has gotten ludicrous and preposterous to no end. But that's not the point. You know who Red Horse Racing and Harry Scott Motorsports, you know why they don't exist? Cup leeches! Turning the Trucks and Xfinity Series into Cup Series 2.0! Truck Series is actually not as bad because the only Cup drivers that are ever in there are like Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch. They have to go up against drivers like Brett Moffitt and Matt Crafton, because Matt Crafton and Brett Moffitt are in some decent equipped trucks, so they can at least outrun the Cup drivers. Now, if it was an Xfinity regular like, I don't know, Justin Allgaier winning all those races, getting the same win-loss ratio as Kyle Busch and the other Cup leeches, that would actually be very impressive because he is in a Xfinity standard chassis and Xfinity standard pit crew. But for Kyle Busch, it's not. He uses the same Cup chassis and pit crew as a cheap shot way of getting to the two-digit number of wins yearly. Oh, I'm so impressed! Oh yeah, I'm so convinced you are superior to the king. I'm so convinced by you ridiculous, biased fans that he is the king of NASCAR. Oh yeah, you siphon money away from rookies trying to make a name for themselves. You use your top tire chassis and pit crew against the little guys. Oh. Yeah, impressive, wonderful. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt, Richard Petty, David Pearson, all are saying bitch please because they didn't have to leech off lower series at all. You know how in this video game, I've talked about this particular comparison ad nauseum, but I might as well brought it up again since a lot of people are not comprehending this. Even if I talk about it in the most well thought out and sagacious and lucid manner. You know how in this video game called Gran Turismo you could just drive the Toyota GT1 and drive against the PT Cruisers and Toyota Prius drivers in the Sunday Cup? That's exactly the case for the Cup leeches! I cannot stress enough how ridiculous it has gotten since 2006. 2005 on back, it wasn't so bad because a lot of the Busch Series regulars, it was called the Busch Series back then, so I'm still kind of used to calling it the Busch Series. The Busch Series regulars were able to beat the shit out of the Cup guys.
Kenseth trying to stay with him. Johnson trying to power by on the outside.
Wow.
Great racing.
What a terrific battle we got going. And here comes Bliss to make it 3 wide.
Woo! Oh, that's tight.
It is 3 wide for the lead. Who's going to back out?
Mike Bliss to the front with a 3-wide move off of turn 4. How about that?
That was impressive.
Wow!
Here comes Bliss with his full head of steam. Cuts underneath him. And had just enough momentum to know that he could keep his foot in it. And the 48 wisely backed out.
What a great move on Bliss's part.
White flag. One more lap. Steve Addington looking on to see if his driver can hang on and keep Matt Kenseth behind him. A hometown race before family and friends all looking on. Bliss trying to get his first NASCAR Busch Series win with the champion Kenseth behind him, applying the pressure.
Bliss has done a phenomenal job. He got the lead and did not relinquish.
Final corner for Mike Bliss. A third to first move with 18 laps to go. Like that. It's going to pay off. Mike Bliss gets his first NASCAR Busch Series win.
But ever since 2006, when Carl Edwards, Kevin Harvick, Matt Kenseth were dominating the fucking shit out of 2006 and onwards, it has gotten progressively worse ever since then. Then it just snowballed from there ever since 2008 started, when Kyle Busch started siphoning monies and race wins and exposure from all these young guys trying to make a name for themselves, to have a future in the sport. As much as I don't like Ricky Stenhouse Jr., why do you think he lacked sponsorship in the early 2010s? Because all these cup leeches were siphoning wins, money, and exposure from all these young drivers trying to make a name for themselves, when they arguably deserve those race wins more than those cup leeches. Especially when, one, Kevin Harvick is the 2014 champion, and he didn't deserve that championship, but nonetheless, he could have been a 3-time champion in the Cup Series if not for the chase, but that's for another video. I already made plenty of videos on that topic already. Kyle Busch is the 2015 champion. Like I said earlier in the video, he didn't deserve it, but he should act like he deserves it. Not to mention 2018 is realistically his championship. Oh my lord. And if we're going to count overall National Series wins, then is Tony Stewart a 4-time champion because of his 1997 IndyCar championship? Does Ricky Stenhouse Jr. have more championships than Bill Elliott based on his 2 Xfinity championships? Never mind the fact that all Ricky Stenhouse does anymore on the field is a wreck 25% of it week in and week out. Is Martin Truex Jr. a 3-time champion too? What about Brad Keselowski? Is he a 2-time champion? Is Dale Earnhardt Jr. presumably better than Matt Kenseth, considering the fact that Matt Kenseth has only 1 championship in 2003, out of all of the 3 big National Series in NASCAR, he only won 1 of them in 2003? I mean, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has 2 championships in the Xfinity Series. That's more than Matt Kenseth's only title in 2003, and yet we all say that Matt Kenseth is objectively superior to Dale Earnhardt Jr. in terms of stats. But now we're suddenly saying Kyle Busch is supposedly the best driver in NASCAR based on his bullshit 200 wins. If his 200 wins should count, then overall championships should count. Hello? Hello? Get that through your thick skulls. Jesus Christ. Your skulls are about as thick as the ice at my local pond. And I know what a lot of people coming into the comment section are going to say. Oh, but in Richard Petty's days, it was always over at least 40 races a year. Whereas this current generation of NASCAR, it's 36 yearly. Yeah, you're talking about Kyle Busch supposedly being better than Richard Petty. If you add up all the races, ranging from trucks to cup, 23 plus 35 plus 36 equals 94. That's double more than the amount of races they ran yearly back in Richard Petty's day. So the whole, oh, they ran more races than 36 back then is objectively invalid. So, no. Oh, but plenty of the Toyota drivers went into the Cup Series just fine. I'll have Kamikaze's tweet explain that for you. Oh, but these younger guys in the lower series need to learn from these Cup drivers. They need to learn how to be competitive. Oh yeah, being 6 laps down, being 20 plus seconds behind, 7 to 20 seconds behind, getting your wins stolen from Cup drivers who have Cup-built cars, Cup chassis, Cup pit crew. Oh yeah, I'm so learning alright. Yeah, this is so the best education for these Xfinity regulars. Oh yeah, they're being so well educated by those Cup teachers. Oh yeah. Jesus fucking Christ. No, they are not teaching them. They're making the Xfinity Series Cup Series 2.0. Because that's all that whoever wins those races anymore. You see, out of the last several years, roughly 2016 on back, there were only like, I don't know, 6, 7 or so races, somewhere in the single digits for Cup Xfinity regulars winning races. Because the Cup leeches win just about roughly 90% of the schedule every fucking year. And even when NASCAR tries to find a solution to limit the quantity of races these Cup leeches can participate in, it's still a problem. And Kyle Busch's 200th win solidifies my gripe perfectly. It's not even just Kyle Busch. Even when it's drivers that I'm a big fan of, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, etc., etc., I don't like it when Cup drivers siphon money or siphon exposure from younger drivers in the Xfinity Series or Truck Series, period. At all. They should not be racing, at least the drivers who are champion, especially the Cup drivers who are champions, and ones that have more than 5 years of experience should not run in the lower series. At least they shouldn't run more than 5. But for the Cup drivers that are still currently racing in the Xfinity and trucks, that don't have enough years of experience within their career, I would have to say, for the ones that are champions and have more than 5 years of experience and have enough wins under their belt, no races at all in the Truck Series and only a few races in the Xfinity Series. Tell me, did Jimmy Johnson need education from Cup leeches back in 2001 when he was signed on to Hendrick Motorsports? No. No, he didn't. It all started back in 2001 Chicago when it was a Xfinity regular versus an Xfinity regular, Ryan Newman and Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson didn't need his race wins leached from him. He earned it. He he worked his way into the Cup Series. Well, granted, yes, Jeff Gordon said that he liked his driving style after the Chicagoland win, but it wasn't like that Jimmie Johnson was supposedly talentless during that season, because he had plenty of top 10s and top 5s under the same team that A.J. Allmendinger in the 47 participated in the Cup Series, and that Ryan Preece is currently participating in, along with his teammate Chris Buescher. That car was a not so very good equipped car at all, and he still managed to get plenty of top 10s and top 5s within it. If you're a driver that can get that many good top 5s and top 10s in a very mediocrely equipped car, I don't know if mediocrely is even a word at all, then you objectively have talent. So there you go, Jimmie Johnson earned his spot at Hendrick Motorsports based on his performance in a poorly equipped vehicle. I'm sorry, that was a tangent, but anyway.
Oh, but maybe if they wanted to make them a name for themselves in the lower series, those Xfinity regulars should just drive better.
How are they supposed to drive better when the Cup leeches are the ones siphoning money and exposure away from those young drivers? They're not going to have the money to enhance their fucking equipment. The Cup leeches are unnecessarily stealing it all. Good Lord. The Cup leeches, specifically Kyle Busch, the biggest plague in the lower series, has been siphoning all that prize money for himself, thus taking away their chances to not enhance their equipment with that money that they could really use to increase their equipment, exposure, sponsorship, and whatnot. Does any of this compute with you? You have to be an idiot to think that none of this is computing with your feeble minds. At least the feeble minds of people that irrationally defend Kyle Busch leeching off of the Xfinity and truck regulars, even though it doesn't happen as often in trucks, but it still happens here and there, thanks to Kyle Busch sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Oh, but don't worry, they're learning by being a terrible driver. Oh, they're learning by being a lap down by those Cup leeches. Oh, they're educationally learning that the top 10 is lapped because of these Cup leeches in their overpowered cars blasting away with their large-ass fucking gaps. Oh yeah, we're learning so much with our money being siphoned away from us. Oh yeah, it's very educational to have our money taken away from us. Oh yeah. Oh fucking Christ. You know, I don't like this show anymore, but it's still a perfect example. But you know, this if you guys ever watched this show called iCarly, where this episode, I don't even remember the episode's names because I didn't pay attention to that show for so long and I stopped caring for a decade. There's this character named Ricky Flame or something that was acting like a sore loser because he lost a cooking contest. Then suddenly he signed up for some elementary school wrestling when he kept constantly winning against all those elementary schoolers. Every single solitary round that he competed in, he didn't lose a single one until Sam came in and whooped his ass. That, in that arrangement, is exactly what Kyle Busch is doing. I cannot convey or stress enough how ridiculous it is how people say he's presumably the best driver in NASCAR history, based on his 200 national wins. His brother beats this piece of shit out of the water, for fuck's sake. These egotistical dimwits that suck Kyle Busch's dick are the bane of my life. Good God, they are an insult to intelligence. Can you name a much bigger insult to intelligence than they are? well, there's always Star Wars fans that claim to be big-time Star Wars fans but hope that the studios would die, and the people that can constantly hyperactively abuse the cheater term to denounce a driver's talent, but I digress. The bigger problem is, hold on. And the bigger problem is whenever these drivers are lapped down, they're always flat-footing the entire fucking race whenever they're lapped by those cup leeches like Kyle Busch. Let's see, Michigan, Fontana, especially with this kind of package in this day and age, might I add. I think Kentucky, they're flat-footing the entire race with several laps down. With a track that doesn't, with tracks that don't even take much skill under a package like this. And yet people still irrationally defend it to no end. They're not learning anything when they're flat-footing the entire fucking race, laps down. And might I add, these races that Kyle Busch wins have smaller mileage and endurance than the Cup Series. So counting his National Series victories is by default invalid. So, no. Well, okay, I think I've been stretching it a little bit by saying that, by dictating the validation of his victories by the miles. So, but that's besides the point, because the miles are rather a small argument rather than the primary one, so I kind of stretched it a bit right there. So, excuse my falter right there.
They're still gonna drive faster and go faster and drive better.
They physically can't! Good fucking God. How dense are you and your arguments? They fucking can't! Ugh, I just want to surgically operate on all of you fucking apologetics. All you NASCAR fans that are so apologetic. I just want to operate on your brains to see how small and feeble it is. It's objectively not possible because Kyle Busch, as well as every other cup leech that happens to be a champion, have been taking away all the money that those Xfinity regulars could really use to enhance their god-forsaken equipment. If you want them to enhance their driving and their speed, get the cup leeches out! I can't stress this enough. Get cup leeches out! We've been saying this for a fucking decade. Get them out! How much more do I have to stress this?
Oh, but they'll have low driver count.
Then how about they just hire some people to drive their fucking cars? Christopher Bell won Kyle Busch a championship in 2017. Kyle Busch, you do not need to be siphoning wins, money, and exposure from all these young guys trying to make a name for themselves. What's the fuss finishing second in a fucking truck race? Christopher Bell won a championship for you in the Truck Series 2 years ago. There's no reason for you to complain about finishing second in a lower series. Good fucking God. Just hire some people to drive your truck or car in the lower series. It's not that hard. Why don't we see all the media and exposure about Justin Allgaier? How come we barely hear anything about Justin Allgaier all over the social media? He wins plenty of races every year, making a name for himself. Didn't he drive the 12 car for Penske before it became the 54 and 22 show in the early 2010s? Why did he end up getting a shitbox 51 car in 2014? It's one of the best slow cars in the field, but it was still a slow car. He should have been in the... If anything, he should have been in the 22 for Penske. But no, there's been a financial decline in NASCAR. And the Cup leeches are a prime factor in it. Oh, Alex, how dare you denounce Kyle Busch and other Cup regulars? How dare you denounce their passion for racing? They don't want to just be limited to the Cup Series. Oh, really? How about running for a team that actually needs help with economically? They could really use their talents to enhance their equipment and exposure and sponsorship. But no, they just have to run the best car possible on the track weekly. Oh no, oh for fuck's sake. They could be helping really low-funded teams with better exposure and equipment, but no, he just has to make his dick look big on the media by winning all those artificial race wins against the littlest guys ever. Against the many unfamiliar names in the Xfinity series. Oh yeah, I'm so impressed. Yeah, I'm enlightened. I am so blown away by how supposedly talented you are by winning against so many participants that have shit tire equipment by default. Oh, yeah, I should be astounded by how talented he is. Kyle Busch, by the way, is talented, but when you try to make your meaningless stats look more important than your own legit Cup statistics, you've lost your credibility. Mr. Unknown could be driving in Kyle Busch's 54 car, but no, oh no, Kyle Busch just has to siphon all these wins and money and exposure from these Xfinity and truck regulars on a weekly basis. Oh yeah, I'm so impressed. Too bad we're never gonna get to know Mr. Unknown's talent because Kyle Busch is holding up that 54 seed for him. Oh no. We could have known how talented so many unknown drivers could be having, but no, so many Cup leeches just ruin it. And you wonder why attendance is extremely low at these Xfinity races nowadays. You wonder why me in particular, who has dedication of going to NASCAR races, has not been to an Xfinity race since 2011 when Kurt Busch won Watkins Glen. And ironically enough, my favorite driver, Jimmy Johnson, finished second that race, and that was one of the only times Jimmy Johnson ever raced in the Xfinity series, because he does not need to win or siphon money from Xfinity regulars to somehow make him look credible by his artificial race wins and unimpressive stats that are objectively meaningless and would fucking say what you will about Jimmy Johnson, but he knows he doesn't need to siphon money, exposure, equipment, and whatnot away from Xfinity regulars, because he already knows. He knows he's way better than that, because he knows that he has so much worth under his belt that he knows that he should just stay in the Cup Series in the NASCAR organization, because he knows that if he were to win so much races that he doesn't deserve in these lower series, you wouldn't look credible whatsoever, because winning against drivers with lower tire equipment by default does not take a lot of talent or pressure at all. Wanna know why attendance is extremely low at all these Xfinity races? Because everyone knows it's gonna be a Cup leech every fucking week. Week in, week out. There will be hardly ever phenomenal finishes unless the Cup drivers are out of it, and even when there's an exciting finish, Denny Hamlin in particular, 2 years ago, would leech it off of William Byron, who deserved it way more than he did. And I'm not even a fan of William Byron at all because of because I don't think he's as good as everyone makes him out to be. No offense to him. I don't like him, don't hate him. I'm just not like a crazy fan of William Byron, but my point still stands because it's Cup Series 2.0 for Xfinity Series. Everyone knows that it's gonna be a cup leech, siphoning those wins and money, all those races, week in and week out. The only ever time that they will know that it's not gonna be a cup leech, it's if it's at races like, Road America or Montreal or whatnot. If you think of greats in sports, do you think of Tom Brady winning against elementary schoolers? Do you think of Michael Jordan winning against elementary schoolers? Do you think of LeBron James going to his local middle school and winning against all those middle schoolers as well? Of course you don't. Because you would know that is not impressive. Also, if you look back at Richard Petty's day, he had to face up against guys like David Pearson, Ned Jarrett, Cale Yarbrough, Benny Parsons, etc., etc., etc. Need I say more? Those are Hall of Fame drivers. What does Kyle Busch have to face up against? What threat or competition does he have to face in order to win all those Xfinity races or truck races? Besides Matt Tifft or Brandon fucking Jones. Yeah, I knew you couldn't name one. I think I said all about everything I can say. One day, 2 decades from now, we'll probably pretend that he is supposedly the greatest thing in NASCAR history. We'll pretend that him beating all guys that have shit tire equipment by default is what defines talent. If you thought that it was enough for NASCAR to be completely devalued by this current stupidest chase format, to be completely devalued by having this shitty racing package where it takes basically no talent whatsoever. You don't even need to let off the throttle in the corners with this current package. We will now know for Kyle Busch for having supposedly as many race wins as Richard Petty. All because he had zero competition winning all those races in lower division series against drivers that had shit tire equipment by default, where he had all of the fucking settings, pit crew, the equipment that he could just blast away from the field with a 20+ second lead week in and week out and just sit on your ass and stay in first the whole time. Whilst devaluing the legacy of badass drivers like Richard Petty, Jeff Gordon, David Pearson, Cale Yarbrough, Dale Earnhardt, Jimmy Johnson, etc., 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 that actually had competition against Hall of Famers. To quote ThrashManiac99, this video, well, let's just say this. To quote ThrashManiac99, may the shit be with you, because this shit just hit the fan. Space out, everybody.